And for a real treat.
If we can dream it, then we can do it. Yes, we can, yes, we can.
Hang on to them hats and glasses, 'cause this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
Hey Disney fans, come join the fun. Cory and Lawrence, the magic's begun. From the parks to the stories we adore, let's dive into the magic. There's so much more. It's the DIZPod, where dreams come true. With Cory and Lawrence, we'll explore with you. We entertain and teach every step of the way. With stories and facts, we brighten your day. From Disney history to tips and tricks, we've got the magic mix that always clicks. It's the DIZPod, where dreams come true. With Cory and Lawrence, we'll explore with you. Feel the magic, the joy and the cheer. Together we'll make memories year after year. The DIZPod, the DIZPod, let's all sing along. With Cory and Lawrence, the magic's never gone. Bringing joy to your day in every way. In the DIZPod, where the magic's here to stay.
You are now listening to a member of the Disney Podcast family. Head over to Disney Podcast Family on Instagram to see all the latest posts for this show and links to other great Disney podcasts.
Folks, we have been waiting for this one for a while. I am excited about tonight. We've got a great DIZPod. There's a special edition of the DIZPod. Normally we're on Tuesday nights. Tonight it's a special night. We are premiering Living in Diz, the movie, right here on the Living in Diz channel. And tonight we are going to be speaking with, obviously, Cory, who is the star of the movie and our host on Living in Diz, but also Jason O'Brien, the creator, the brains behind this entire project. So I'm not even going to waste any more time. I'm going to bring them right in. Gentlemen.
Hello,
Good to see
everyone.
everybody.
It's like I'm a half host, half guest on this tonight. It's weird.
That is true.
It's really weird. Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah, because
Yes.
normally I don't open the show on my own. I think that's maybe happened
did it.
once.
You did a fantastic job, my friend.
Very well done.
So
It's
Jason,
the media tour that I've dreamed of.
yes,
Yes.
Good Morning America is tomorrow at 7 a.m. And,
Love
That's
that.
Yep.
So Jason, great to meet you. Thank you for coming
Yes,
on
good
for
to meet
this edition here. So I'm going to get started with you if you don't mind. My first question is really what made you decide to take on a project like this? How did that come about?
Well, I'd always loved Disney World. Like it was always something that my family loved years ago, and my daughter loved going there. We must have took her like every year. So it was something that I always loved. And then when I was not there, I missed it. You know,
Hmm.
I was like, so, and I can't even remember like when it first started, but I came across like a vlog. I'm sure it was Cory's. Um, and I was like, wow, there are people that are streaming this, and this is so much fun. Like I can relive the park, and I can kind of see what's the newest stuff, especially when I haven't been to the park in a while. And so then when I started to like think about people doing this, and that's typically what happens when what prompts me to make a documentary is I start asking questions. You know, I start asking questions about, you know, who are the people that do this? How do they do this? Why do they do it? You know, and so once I start doing that, I'm like, okay, that's a film possibility. And so then I did some research and I saw that there really wasn't any kind of film out there about this. And so that's where it started. I was like, I really want to make a film about this.
And so then you start reaching out to creators.
Mhm.
Is that kind of how that happened?
Yeah. I basically started.
Tell that story because it's a good one.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's a good one, yes.
Yeah.
So I did. I basically started sitting down and doing research. Like I wanted to see how many of vloggers are doing this. You know, how many out there, and I was amazed how many that I came across. So I started making just a big list because you never know who's going to be interested in being a part of a film.
Mhm.
And I've done that in some of my past documentaries when I've done a certain subject matter and there's a number of people that are involved in it. I will typically try to reach out to as many as possible because you're not going to get everybody wanting to do it. So I reached out to everybody, and obviously Corey was one of them. And I only got about 5 responses back from people. And initially, the plan was that I was going to travel to Orlando, which I usually would do. I would usually travel to make a documentary and film it myself and that kind of thing. But with money being like it was, I realized that I wasn't going to be able to do that. But I really liked the idea of the film. And so I was like, I wonder, as I was thinking about vloggers, they're obviously very well versed in filming, that we could try to make a film. Like, I send questions to do interviews. We kind of talk about what we would need from it and then compile footage that way. So I reached back out to those same 5, and Corey was the only one interested in, in doing it that way. And we thought, because initially I thought, maybe this film needs to have a lot of different vloggers, but Corey actually convinced me that why don't we make this film just about a one particular vlog? And I thought, that makes a lot of sense, because that way we can really focus on what makes you different, and we didn't really need to have all of those other kind of viewpoints. I think it would have just basically would have been saying a lot of the same things. So
Mhm.
especially as I started to watch Living in Diz, and really was impressed with how different his channel is than so many others, I was like, yeah, this seems like a really natural fit. And then Corey and I just seemed to mesh really well with how the kind of perfectionists we are, and it just worked really well to make this film. So I was really thankful for Corey for coming up with that idea, because I wasn't sure if I'd be able to continue the film, especially when no one else responded. And then Corey convinced me of that. I was like, yeah, there's a good film here.
So now you're digging through all of this material, the vlog material,
Mhm.
the live streams. Were there any that really stuck out to you that didn't make it in the film that you can think of, or
Oh
some
God,
that
there
are in the
was
film?
yeah, there's so much. I mean, that was probably the biggest challenge of making this film, because usually when I shoot a film, I'll shoot tons of extra footage that I'll never use. And so the big challenge is when you get back and you're going to go through it. Well, this was probably the most immense amount of footage that I ever had access to. And so it was sort of like, God, I feel like I might be missing something, if but it took a lot of time to kind of, and Corey thankfully pinpointed some really good moments that would make it into the film. And so, because I was obviously looking for moments that were just funny, fun, emotional, things that were a little different than the traditional kind of thing that we see. So once I kind of was able to get through the footage, then it kind of flowed after that. But it did take a lot of watching. That's for sure.
But now, this is about Disney, right? You're a Disney
Mhm.
fan. So have you
Yes.
done other documentaries like that where it was about something that you were um,
Oh.
really
Um,
a fan of?
Not really. I think this is kind of the first that, because most times, like a documentary that I would make, it would be something that I just discovered, that I
Okay.
was intrigued by. But yeah, that's a good question, because this is something that I've, loved forever, and to be able to now make a film about that feels really special, because now I'm able to kind of share that with other people, sort of that discovery that so many of like your viewers have already discovered, and maybe a whole group of new people now will discover,
Right.
hey, this is really cool that there are people out there that do this, and now you can experience Disney every single day.
Yeah. And so aside from that, how are you hoping that the documentary impacts the Disney fan community?
I hope it's a positive. I mean, because I obviously set out to do a film that was a very pro what vloggers do. You know, I
Mhm.
I I was able to see, so much, because I would watch the chats during live streams and things like that, and especially once I started to talk to Corey about people that, um, how much it means to them, and so I really really hope that it's something that people see, the because basically when I saw Corey and his family in these videos, and I saw the positivity that they share every single day, I was like, that's what I want to accomplish in the film. Like, I want to show a lot of positivity. I mean, that's kind of the filmmaker that I've kind of become, is I want to show I want to put positive kind of films into the world. I think we have enough negativity and things like that, that I think I can put something that is really going to resonate with people, and they're going to come away with it feeling a little bit better, then that's a good thing.
Yeah, I would agree with that. As I've been involved with the channel to the level that I am, I think even as a fan before that, that's what attracted me to living in Diz was the
Mhm.
positivity, the fun.
Yeah.
It's like going to the park with your friends,
Hmm.
except you're sitting in your living room. So
Yeah.
totally understand wanting to do it from that aspect.
Mhm.
And so how do you go about capturing the essence of, the Disney community and get it into, 50 minutes?
Mm. That's tough. Fortunately, I mean, with this particular film especially, it's all in the material. It's all there. No matter what clips that I picked, it's Corey and his family emanating from them. So it's almost impossible for me to mess that up. Like it's because it's basically, and when I sent Corey like the questions, he answered them so perfectly. Like there was just so really it was just, I hope that I can now at least makes a coherent narrative out of this when there's so much material to possibly put in. That's always the trouble I have is there's usually too much material to try to put into a film. And we had an interesting challenge with this one because we started out as a short film actually.
Mhm.
um, and we're still trying to get the short film out there to film festivals, which we might still get. But once we did the short, then I was really looking at, if we're looking at a distribution possibility, a feature is usually what you're going to need to go with because short films don't tend to get out there for streaming services and things like that. So that was a whole new challenge because usually I'm always having to cut a film down as opposed to now I'm trying to extend this into a feature film. But as
Mm.
I did that, I was discovering, wow, now I can include a lot more moments that I wasn't able to include before and some additional perspectives that I think people will be interested in. So again, I think it's all in the material. I think it was all just there, and I just kind of facilitated kind of putting that together into a narrative.
I've got a question off that, Lawrence.
Sure.
So where we looked at the shortened version that was right for film festivals, but then we
Hmm.
talked about which was Jacob's idea first. He's like, Dad, let's go with an extended edition,
Hmm.
and we'll go with the shortened version. Now that you've been able to include more material and
Hmm.
you see this other film, will the short one be different by some means where you may say, you know what, I'm going to take this out and include
Right.
that? Or are you happy with what we still had in the beginning for the
I
short
think,
film?
well, I think the good thing about the short is it really answers the most basic questions that I think most people that are going to learn about this would want to know. Like, how do you do this? Is it your main job? Do you make money from it? What kinds of things do you experience? Is Disney okay? It answers the basic questions. And so I'm really happy with how the short is. And then I think the feature is what allows us to kind of get into a lot more of just the process and things that make you different and special, and that's what I love. I like both versions. I think they both accomplish
Okay.
different things. And I
Okay.
think festival wise, a shorter film helps. Feature films are notoriously hard to get into film festivals. I've never gotten a feature documentary into a festival, but I've done much better on the short film side because festivals, just like anything else, are very competitive.
Mhm.
And they tend to put more short films from lesser known filmmakers into festivals as opposed to like they only have so many slots they can put in for features, and they traditionally want to get a name that's involved or something that they can come to the festival and boost their numbers and things like that. It's festivals are a whole nother animal that is that I'll never be able to
Yeah.
crack, but I don't think anyone is designed to. It's just one of those things that you just gotta, because sometimes festivals have a certain theme that they're trying to fit, and so it's not that you're a bad filmmaker, it's just that you don't fit into a certain year or something like that. So
Mm.
it's a tough industry for sure, but I think giving us two options like that allows us to reach different audiences in ways that we might not have done.
Mm. So take us through a little bit of your process and what challenges did you face during this?
Well, the challenge of making a film that I'm not shooting was one for sure. being knowing that we needed the footage to look a certain way, for the sound to be a certain way, um, and just to be able to communicate back and forth. Which this film to me is an example of what can be done nowadays with film.
Mm.
It's that we can make films. It's like we were joking before we got on here. This is actually the first time Corey and I have spoken in person. Like we have only texted. So it's kind of fitting that on the premiere night we finally get to talk in person. But it's an example of just how you can make films these days. You can. The technology has gotten to such a place where we can shoot films on iPhones, and for a film like this, that seemed perfect to do it, because you're basically using the technology that you're using in the parks, and so we're making the film with that technology. So the biggest challenge, I think, was just coordinating footage, and how do we kind of work through it. And like I said, my personal biggest challenge was just the sheer amount of footage, because there's just so much to pour through. And I'm sure there's still some great moments that I could have included that I just never got to watch. But that definitely was the biggest challenge.
And when it came with the from with the sheet of questions he sent me, I think I came back with him with like at least half more or
Yes.
equal questions that I came up with additional
Mhm. Yeah,
for
it's
additional
true.
footage in the interview portion as well.
Oh,
So
that's yeah, that's when I knew that when I first saw the first batch of footage that you had provided, I was like, "Oh, this is going to work perfectly." I mean, because you were thinking from a filmmaker standpoint of just even just the B-roll kind of stuff. So I had an abundance of material that. So my worries were allayed very quickly. That I was like, and Corey was always so responsive too. It's like, if there's anything additional you need, let me know. And we did often go back and had to add some new stuff as we started, especially as I started editing. I started to realize, oh, hey, I need an interview segment about that. And so we went back and forth a good bit, but it worked really well. Like it just, we worked together really well. And I loved always Corey's ideas. It always made the film better. So it just was a great, great, great working relationship.
yeah, I can't thank you enough for being such a great collaborator to work with.
Hmm.
Because in the beginning, I asked him. I said, I'd question something, or hey, suggest this, that, and finally, I'm like,
Hmm.
just let me know if I'm being a pain in the butt, because
Hmm.
these are just ideas I have. And he's, oh no, I
Yeah.
love this. Keep it, and that gave me free reign to just really
Yeah.
let him know whatever I think at that point. So it
And
was.
that's Yeah, and that's my usual way of filmmaking. Like when if I'm making a film, like just a narrative film, not a documentary, and I'm working with a crew. If I'm directing, I don't believe in like a hierarchy on a film set. I might be the director, but this production assistant might have a really good idea. You know, and I'm not going to make them feel less because they're a PA. And a lot of times I have gotten a great suggestion from someone that might see something that I'm so bogged down in directing, and I might not see. Like, oh, hey, or they might point out something, hey, you might want to pay attention to this. And so I've just always believed that collaboration, especially when film, is what film's about. And it's not just about one person, but it's about how can we as a group make something really, really good. And so that's what I loved about how it worked back and forth with us.
I can agree with that on a smaller scale, because I was telling you a little bit of some work I've done. I have a little bit of a resume for someone who's never really been in the lead of something, but
Hmm.
I've been on plenty of professional sets and bigger time sets and things like that, New York, here, all that. So I'm always fascinated at the crew. So
Hmm.
I love watching everything. I've stood by crews doing B-roll and whatever, makeup, everything. I've just always loved it. Um,
Yeah.
so when people see the interview material with Tammy and I in the film, I went out and bought special lighting for all of that, and Tammy and I spent half a day doing it, and she directing me, I directing her. So it was a really, really cool collaboration. And
Yeah.
on a smaller scale too, with Jacob, he's such a
Hmm.
smart kid, and I would come up with an idea like, okay, there's Spaceship Earth. Why don't you shoot me from here? And I'll approach the camera. I'll say this. I'll come back, and he would
Hmm.
sit and think about it, and he'd say, "No, Dad. You know what? I think we should do it like this." And
Hmm.
if it sounded good to me, which it sounded good to me 100% of the time,
Yeah.
uh, I'd agree with him, and we'd shoot it, and I would love it. So we collaborated very well together. He just didn't listen to what Dad had to say. So
Yes.
good product.
So, if you're just joining us, we are chatting obviously with Cory and also Jason O'Brien, who is the director of the Living in Diz movie, which is going to be premiering right here on Living in Diz in about 9 minutes. So, we are very excited. Cory, tell me kind of what was it like getting the communication from Jason that he wanted to create a movie about what you do.
You mean like the initial contact?
Yeah.
He sent an email, and from what I remember, and I read it, and I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. Like, somebody thinks that this would be a good idea, huh? So I came home and told the family, and they were like, okay, all right. So I went through there was an actual contract for it and everything, read through it, signed it. I didn't think that much about it, because for me it was a yes, because I thought this is really cool. It's a chance for us to show what we do and let the world know who Living in Diz is. And so I signed that quick and sent it back to him. I gave him a little bit of time, and I didn't hear from him for a bit. And I think the reason why I hadn't was because he was waiting to hear from others. And he's like, yeah, we're probably going to shelf it for a while or just scrap the project. And I was so excited about it at that point. I kind of thought about it, and I'm tapping my fingers now. Start tapping my fingers. It's like the Grinch when he starts to come up with that wonderful, horrible idea.
Oh yeah.
And out of a little bit of aggression, I messaged him back, and I said, you know what? Why don't you just do this movie about us? I will give you everything you need, and you can name it Living in Diz. And he said, well, let me think about that. I'll get back to you. And I think it was just like the next day he got back and said, you know what? This is a great idea.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I had to stick to my promise and give him everything we possibly could give him.
And you did too. I don't remember anything that I ever asked for that you were like, oh, I don't know if we can do that. You were like, oh, I'll be right on it.
Yeah. I
Yep.
need you to shoot from the top of Cinderella's castle. All right, let me try to pull that off.
I know I
Let's see what
really
can
should
do.
have tried to like get some like really special shots out of you
We would have
to
tried.
see how far I could go,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There's some
So-
questions in the chat, Lawrence, unless you have more with him.
Yeah, no, I do have a few here. So there's a few questions about the production budget,
Mhm.
and essentially how many people, how big was the crew who was working on it?
Well, I mean, this was a very, very small. I mean, this was basically, and me as editor kind of thing, having a musician contributing some music to it. But that was about it on my side. I think Cory actually had more of the production side on with him, to get the footage. And I mean, obviously, it would have been bigger if I had actually traveled there and would have had a crew. Would have had typically a sound person and someone to assist, another production assistant maybe. So this was very different than a lot of other films that I would have done, in that it was very, very small. And that, I mean, that was unfortunately why it looked like I was going to have to shuttle the project, was because of cost. I was trying to think, okay, I'm not really going to be able to travel and get the amount of footage that I would need to get, because it's not the kind of thing that we could have done in a weekend.
Mhm.
I don't think I could have just traveled down there for a weekend. I would have had to make multiple trips. So, and very much what Cory was just saying, he really saved the film, because he did come up with this idea, and he did like what I was suggesting about, shooting the footage there, and then I work on editing it. So that it's a totally unique kind of experience that I don't expect that I'm probably going to have in other films. And that's why I'm glad I had it here, because it was just, it made, I don't know. It's just, I'm always going to look at this as just a very special experience in how we've been able to do this. So,
And so another question: how many hours of editing would you say it took?
whoa, boy, that's hard to say, because we actually started, I want to say, Cory, you first sent footage a year ago in
That's what I was
February, wasn't it?
guessing.
I think we're almost
Yeah.
up to a year. Yeah. So it was, and it took a while, because obviously, because I really can't start editing until I know all the footage, front to back, that I know everything that I want to include. So this one was a particular challenge, because I knew I was going to be reviewing footage probably throughout the entire process. So I kind of had to think about, okay, I need to get a structure in place and then kind of figure out, okay, this would be good footage for this particular moment, or this would be good here. So it was and it obviously didn't take this entire year, but because there were other projects and just personal things that were going on this year too. But but when it comes down to it, it's hard to say how many hours. But editing, fortunately, it's what I love the most about filmmaking is editing, because
Mm.
that's where you make the film. So it never got tedious or anything like that. I always enjoyed it, because especially as you re-edit and you find new things and you say, oh, this didn't work, but now it's working. And, so it was a lot of hours for sure. It was a good thing I wasn't billing anybody for those hours, as I might typically do when a place hires me or something. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a lot of fun. A lot of hours, but a lot of fun.
And how long have you been making film?
Oh wow, 20 some years now. And I've really fallen more into documentaries. Because I used to do mostly I've done a lot of short films, I've done a lot of narrative films, but documentaries to me, just when I made my first documentary, I was just the response that I got, and it was also my first film that I ever sold. I was just like, it was sort of what I go back to, of like, and it was a positive film, and I
Mhm.
was like, I'd never got this kind of feedback and reaction when I made other films, but there's something about the documentary art form, and it's only gotten more and more popular, that just makes me want to keep doing it. Um, so yeah, it's been about 20 years though.
Wow. Wow.
Mhm.
And so as we wrap up here, because we're going to shoot this right over as this ends, it's going to take you right over to the premiere of the movie. We'll watch the premiere. We will be in chat with all of you. And then as that movie ends, we're going to come back to the studio. The movie's going to send you right back here. And you can ask questions, talk about your favorite parts of the movie. So we'll be able to do that and kind of watch it all together like a watch party. So we'll all be in chat. Any final thoughts from either one of you gentlemen?
I just want to, words can't describe how grateful I am to have Jason have come across our path and just capture this masterpiece of ours together. Like, this is just, it gives me the chills to talk about it. It's just amazing that someone would care enough to take the time to make an actual film of us. And I feel like I'm indebted to you forever, my friend. It's just it's unbelievable accomplishment. No matter where this goes, we're already at the top of the mountain, but we have some
Yeah.
higher hopes too for it.
Yeah, and what I would say, it comes down to, like, we're premiering it on YouTube, but at the end of the day, it's about reaching an audience, and that's what you want. Because I always said, even if you get a couple people to see your film, you finished a film, you made a film, and if you impact a person in a positive way, you've done your job. So I'm so happy that, especially all of the Living in Diz family, that has, every time I would pop into a stream, sometimes I'd hear Cory talking about the film and everybody be so excited. So I think tonight I'm most excited for the Living in Diz family to finally see this film and see what they think of it,
The
because
the
they've been
community,
so just excited. So
Yeah. Well,
absolutely.
on that note, we are going to send you to the premiere of the movie. Stay
Yes.
right here.
Enjoy, everyone.
If and it will link you right to that movie, and then the movie will link you right back here to wrap up with some more questions. Enjoy the movie. We'll be in chat enjoying with all of you.
DIZPod, where the magic's here to stay.